SUP is an inflatable board with a paddle for riding on water surface. I've never sailed on it, but I've seen many times how St. Petersburg residents cut through the water on them in the Gulf of Finland in the summer. Buy a side, I guess it's expensive and stupid attraction. Besides, I don't like water activities. But my employer organized a free SUP tour along the Oredezh River. I accepted the offer. Now I can try and form an adequate opinion about SUP surfing. My nickname is Egorixa. Let's try this new St. Petersburg entertainment. We started by bus from the Moskovskaya subway station. In an hour and a half we reached the start of the route in the village Siversky. I changed my clothes, put the necessary things in a waterproof bag and listened to the instruction. The training was amazingly simple and didn't take even 5 minutes. I expected that they would explain us how to use the board and tell us other details on how to become a balance guru. In practice, it's really not difficult to control the surf. What is SUP? SUP surfing or stand-up paddle boarding is a water sport that appeared as an offshoot of surfing. Naturally, it was developed on Hawaii. The name speaks for itself. Unlike surfing, we must get to the waves standing on our feet and using a paddle. In addition, the boards are longer and wider. SUP surfing has several directions. Classic SUP surfing, racing, tourism, whitewater, and even yoga and fishing. SUP whitewater is a descent along turbulent rivers with overcoming rapids. Whitewater, or rather foam, is formed when water under pressure breaks against rocks, which is often found in mountain rivers and rivers reaching rapids. Our activity is recreational and has come at the Oredezh River in these parts. Leisurely riding allows you to look familiar places from unusual water angles and admire stunning views. The length of the boards for riding starts from 2.5 meters. For those who live near rivers and reservoirs, the size does not matter. For residents of metropolis, this is a problem. There's nowhere to store the board in city apartments, and it's difficult to transport it without a car. The situation changed 10 years ago, when inflatable boards that fit in a backpack were invented. The SUP movement reached Russia in the early 2010s. Since 2016, the Fontanka SUP festival has been held in St. Petersburg every summer. In the first years, a modest number of people took part in it. Since COVID's year, I began to notice a growing number of people on the city's reservoirs. About 2 years ago, SUPs on rivers and canals became a super popular phenomenon. Last year, the festival was visited by 10,000 surfers. This year the same number was admitted, but there were significantly more people who wanted to. The descent begins from the village Siversky, where we hastily descended into the water at the hydroelectric power station of the same name. Until the mid-19th century, it was a small village. In 1857, a railway ran through it and the station was built, which prompted the development and settlement of the surrounding lands. The charming, diverse nature was loved by many Petersburgers. Therefore, the village received the status of the dacha capital. Many outstanding figures of Russian culture and art loved to relax here. For example, 3 world-famous artists. From 1874, Ivan Nikolaevich Kramskoy rented a dacha here. He liked it here so much that he built a dacha estate for himself. In it, he worked fruitfully for many years, until his death. In the Siverskaya, Kramskoy painted more than 40 works. Frequent guests at his dacha were 2 other outstanding people, Ilya Yefimovich Repin and Ivan Ivanovich Shishkin. In other words, the place for rafting on SUPs was chosen, inspiring and memorable. We're going down the Oredezh River. This is the longest tributary of the Luga River, which flows into the Baltic Sea. The calling card of the Oredezh is the outcrops of red Devonian sandstones along the banks of the river. They came into view immediately after the first turn. I was amazed more than once at how these ledges towered above us. I am ashamed that some tourists spoil natural monuments by scratching stupid inscriptions on them. The Devonian period is a geological period that ended 360 million years ago and lasted about 60 million years. We, ordinary people, divide history into millennia, centuries and decades. Geologists study the history of our planet through the component of the Earth and use geochronological scale. The Devonian period is just one of those into which the scale is divided. This period is rich in biotic events. Fishes reached a huge diversity biodiversity and occupied almost all marine habitats. The climate was tropical almost all over the land. Plants continued to spread, and the first representatives of ferns and seed plants appeared. The first land vertebrates appeared. Paleontologists assume that the lungs that land creatures breathe with originally arose in fish living in swamps. Fossilized fragments of Devonian lobe-finned and armored fish and other animals are found in the sediments along the river. The visible height of the outcrop in some places reaches 8 meters. According to drilling data, the thickness of the layer, that is, the normal length from the top to the base of the layer, is about 74 meters. It was Saturday, so there was nowhere for a leaf to fall on the water. I didn't expect to see so many vacationers. The accompanying instructor said that on weekdays you may meet not at all on the river. Full-time workers like me can only afford to go out on weekends. The weather is wonderful. Warmth around 30 degrees, light wind, cool water. The river in this section is calm and winding. Controlling the board and maintaining balance do not cause any difficulties. I learned to control it sitting in 10 minutes, and closer to the second half of the route I felt confident even standing. In addition, at first I was afraid of falling and drowning the camera, so I tried not to change position unnecessarily. We were offered life jackets, but everyone refused, since the deepest sections are 2 or 2.5 meters deep. Along the way, we came across fallen branches and stones sticking out of the water. You can catch on them or sit on the bottom, which I did a couple of times. Fortunately, I did not cause any damage to the board. Amazingly, in many places, tree branches hang over the river. They sheltered me from the scorching sun and swayed peacefully in the wind. I was never close to falling into the water, but some tourists did lose their balance. Those who climbed onto the boards happy, because they were able to cool off. Only one unknown woman dropped her phone in the river. I don't know if she was able to find it. The depth in that place was as deep as a man's height, the bottom was clay, and the water was muddy. So we rode for 2 hours, sunbathed, talked, and relaxed. Finally, we reached the resting place and landed on the shore. I will add a bit of my realism to the unpleasant incident with the phone. That's why I think that SUP surfing is a bad idea in St. Petersburg. It's trivial, but entering a surf club is limited by the price of equipment and board. The cheapest boards cost from $150. Experienced surfers do not recommend buying them because of frequent valve failures and poor shell materials. A complete set consisting of an acceptable board, paddle, pump, and other equipment starts at $350. My salary is almost the same as the median for St. Petersburg and is $440 before taxes. $400 is left for living. That is, in order for half the city's population to afford such a hobby, they would have to give up a whole month of work for equipment. Unfortunately, I don't have such desire and opportunity. The second important limitation is the weather. On average, Petersburg has 62 sunny days a year. Cloudy and overcast days prevail for most of the year. Warm months can be cold from May to September, but every year the weather brings surprises. This year, from the end of June and all of July, the thermometer doesn't fall below 18 degrees during the day. I would only count on the summer months, since the average temperatures in May and September are 12-15 degrees. It is a little cooler near the water than on land. For me, temperatures below 18-20 degrees are uncomfortable for sailing. My city, like London, is famous for its rain, which often occurs in the summer. As a result, there are not many days left for SUP surfing. Taking into account the restrictions in the form of work and household chores, there are 5 to 10 successful sails a year. The third repulsive factor is the restriction on surfing in the center. From May to November, any small-sized watercraft are prohibited on the central rivers and canals, as well as the Neva River. Movement is permitted from 5 to 8 a.m. as a part of an organized group with prior approval of the route with the city authorities. That is, you will not be able to plow the expanse expanses without permission. In addition, not all areas of the metropolis have enough spacious bodies of the water and much less access to the Gulf of Finland. This can be solved by traveling outside the city. Unfortunately, traveling around the suburbs by public transport is expensive, long and inconvenient. Not all city residents have a car. There are few developed routes in the vicinity of the city, such as this one in Siversky. For these reasons, I wouldn't devote myself entirely to this water hobby. Sail a couple of times a year is an affordable pastime. You can rent a boat or take a tour from $15 or $30, depending on the location and duration. On the shore, we caught our breath and had a snack of prepared sandwiches. The last time I ate was on the bus halfway here. Everyone can imagine the emotions I experienced when I tasted this simple sandwich. It was incredible. At that moment, I heard thunder for the first time nearby. There was only one dark cloud in the sky. The forecast promised that it would start raining soon and would last until the evening. There was nothing to do but continue on our way. We surfed past more than one picturesque location. The clouds were gathering, but the rain didn't start. We sailed to the rope from which some brave surfers jumped into the water with a running start. Little by little we swam to the Egorixa hydroelectric power station. Until the middle of the 20th century, timber was floated down the Oredezh. In 1948, a cascade of 6 small hydroelectric power stations was built, as the villages needed electricity. Small villages didn't have power lines, or they were low-powered and often damaged by winds and snowfalls. By the 20s, the priority vector of the development of the power grid of St. Petersburg and the region changed to full-scale construction of long power lines. It was decided that it was impractical to service and use small electricity generators. After the commissioning of the Leningrad nuclear power plant, all hydroelectric power stations on the Oredezh were closed. The equipment was dismantled and machine hull buildings were abandoned. Since then, the dams have been used as pedestrian bridges. As you can see, both the Siversky and Egorixa hydroelectric power plants are in a deplorable condition. The name of the latter coincides with the name of a neighboring small village. 6 years ago, I filmed a video about the Eliseev estate in this village. I drove around abandoned sites, one of which is this estate. In 1898, the land on the hill by the river was purchased at the auction by Alexander Grigorievich Eliseev. He was the grandson of Petr Eliseev, the founder of the famous Russian trading dynasty. A beautiful estate with a difficult fate was built on the site. I won't go into details, but you can see how it looked at the time of my visit. Now it's being reconstructed. Having run into an obstacle, we landed on the shore, took out the boat and without rest carried them along the path to the river flow behind the dam. Our route continued, although many independent tourists handed in their boards upon reaching the dam. When we got on the water, it became clear that the clouds had finally thickened and it would start raining any minute. After the hydroelectric power station we had overcome, the river flowed faster. Here encountered rapids for the first time. I bravely overcome them like a real pirate plowing the expanses of the Caribbean Sea. I fell behind my group, but continued moving at a leisurely pace. The cloudy pre-storm sky was to my advantage, as it became less hot. I looked with curiosity at the small summer cottages built close to the river. Imagine the joy of local summer residents swimming in the cool Oredezh on a hot day. The last 10 minutes before the finish, I no longer saw anyone who had sailed ahead or rowed behind. Unfortunately, the camera damaged the file with the idyll I captured while recording. I'll try to describe it. I was swimming alone in the silence of nature. Rain was falling from the sky, and here and there low tree branches hung over the river. To the left and to the right there were steep but not high banks. The river slowly flowed and babbled under the board, carrying me along with its flow. From time to time, peals of thunder were heard high in the sky above me. The atmosphere was indescribably peaceful and uniting with nature. I interrupted the summer peace with soft splashes of water when I made another stroke of the paddle. Such magic, bliss and tranquility could really damage the video. In such awe, I swam to the finish line where the instructor met me. Then, behind the scenes, there was a modest barbecue. Towards the end, we were finally covered by rain with a thunderstorm. It did not reach the level of a downpour, but I would not call it drizzle either. Having left the table hungry, I changed my clothes and walked to the bus that was waiting for tired vacationers. Leaving Siversky, we were haunted by peals of thunder and occasional lightning. There was no longer any rain in St. Petersburg. I transferred to the bus and got home dry. The swim, despite the weather, was excellent. SUP surfing energized me. I'm an active and athletic person, so I like this type of recreation. It turned out that I keep my balance very well. I love traveling and enjoying nature most of all. Today I was able to look at the forest, rocky and meadow landscapes from an unusual waterside. In St. Petersburg, I cannot make this sport my hobby, and I don't want to, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. However, arranging a couple of such swims in the summer is a great adventure. It is just difficult to find such a fascinating and picturesque route. This is exciting and unforgettable activity. I recommend trying it to everyone who is planning to visit St. Petersburg in the summer. Thank you so much for paddling with me today. If you like the video, please like it and leave any comment. See you on new non-tourist walks around St. Petersburg, at interesting events, or in culinary adventures.